Picture this. You're an heiress to a massive fortune, living in a sprawling mansion, with enough wealth to make Scrooge McDuck jealous. What do you do with your life? If you're Lara Croft, you ignore the riches, sign up for kickboxing classes, and spend your days as a bike courier because, well, who needs millions when you have adrenaline? Welcome to the wild and dangerous world of Tomb Raider, where ancient legends, perilous puzzles, and death-defying stunts are all in a day's work. So grab your bow, dust off your archaeology skills, and let's follow Lara on her epic journey. Lara Croft isn't your typical trust fund kid. She's living paycheck to paycheck as a bike courier in London, occasionally signing up for MMA fights, where she proves she's more than capable of handling herself. But life isn't all action and thrill. Lara is haunted by the disappearance of her father, Richard Croft, who vanished 7 years ago on a mysterious expedition. When Lara gets arrested after a wild bike chase through the city, impressive but not entirely legal, her father's business partner, Anna Miller, bails her out. Anna urges Lara to sign the papers declaring her father legally dead, a step that would make her the rightful heir to the Croft estate. Lara reluctantly agrees and visits her family's massive mansion, a place filled with memories of her father and their bond. While exploring her father's study, Lara discovers a puzzle box, an intricate piece of work only her father could leave behind. Solving it, she finds a key and documents that lead her to his secret workshop. It's here that Lara discovers her father's obsession with Himiko, the mythical queen of Yamatai, said to possess a deadly power. In a video message, Richard pleads with Lara to destroy his research to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. But let's be honest, Lara is not the kind of person to play it safe. Instead of following her father's instructions, she decides to follow the trail he left behind. Cue the adventure. Lara Croft's determination to follow in her father's footsteps takes her to the bustling, chaotic streets of Hong Kong, where her journey truly begins. With little money left after pawning her prized possessions, Lara navigates the vibrant yet gritty port city in search of Lu Run, the captain of the ship her father once hired to take him to the fabled island of Yamatai. The docks are alive with activity, merchants shouting their prices, the pungent smell of fish wafting through the air, and dubious characters lurking in the shadows. It's a far cry from her posh London upbringing, but Lara fits right in, her resolve sharper than ever. She finds Lu Run in a dimly lit bar, nursing a drink and looking every bit the reluctant hero. Lu, played with a mix of charm and weariness, is the son of Wei Run, who disappeared while on the same expedition as Richard Croft. Initially, Lu has no interest in helping Lara. He's got his own demons to deal with, not to mention a hefty drinking problem. But when Lara shows him her father's journal and shares her belief that their loved ones are connected by fate, something sparks in him. It's not just the prospect of adventure or even money. It's the chance to uncover the truth about his father's disappearance. With a begrudging agreement, Lu Run accepts her offer. The duo sets sail on Lu's battered old vessel, the Endurance. The ship is hardly seaworthy, creaking with every wave and looking as though it might sink under the weight of its rusted hull. But Lara's excitement is palpable, and her determination is infectious. The ocean is vast, and the island of Yamatai remains shrouded in mystery, a place where even GPS coordinates falter. As they sail deeper into uncharted waters, the mood shifts from hopeful to ominous. The skies darken, and the wind picks up, carrying with it the promise of a storm. Lara pores over her father's notes, studying maps and ancient texts to prepare for what lies ahead. Lu, meanwhile, shares stories of his father's adventures, their conversations laced with humor and a sense of shared purpose. Then, the storm hits. The scene is chaotic and visceral as the storm engulfs the Endurance. Towering waves crash against the ship, tossing it around like a toy in a bathtub. The wind howls, rain lashes down in sheets, and the boat's creaking turns into a deafening roar as it begins to splinter. Lara and Lu scramble to keep the ship afloat, gripping ropes and steering wildly to avoid being capsized. Despite their efforts, nature proves merciless. A massive wave slams into the side of the ship, breaking it apart. The mast snaps like a twig, and the engine sputters out. Lara is thrown overboard, her screams drowned out by the roar of the storm. She fights to stay afloat, her survival instincts kicking in as she's dragged beneath the waves and hurled back to the surface. Eventually, she washes up on the shores of Yamatai, battered but alive. The camera pans out to reveal the jagged cliffs and dense jungle of the island, a stark contrast to the calm waters they left behind. But Lara's ordeal is far from over. Lara awakens, dazed and disoriented, to find herself in the clutches of Mathias Vogel and his armed mercenaries. Mathias is a cold, calculating figure who exudes menace with every word. He's been stranded on Yamatai for years, leading a Trinity expedition to locate Himiko's tomb. Unlike Lara, who is motivated by a desire for truth and connection, Mathias is driven by greed and ambition. His only goal is to retrieve Himiko's remains and use them as a weapon for Trinity's shadowy agenda. Mathias reveals a devastating truth. He claims to have killed Lara Croft years ago, leaving Lara reeling. The shock and grief are almost too much for her to bear, but Mathias shows no mercy. He forces her to work as a laborer alongside other captives, tasked with clearing debris and uncovering the tomb's entrance. The island is a grim and brutal place, with harsh conditions and armed guards watching their every move. But Lara is no ordinary prisoner. Even as she toils in the dirt, her mind races with plans of escape. Her sharp eyes take in every detail, where the guards patrol, where weapons are stored, and how the terrain might offer a chance for freedom. Her spirit remains unbroken, and she clings to the hope that she can find the truth about her father and stop Mathias from unleashing Himiko's deadly power. Lara seizes her moment when the guards let their vigilance slip. In a pulse-pounding sequence, she overpowers one of her captors, grabbing a weapon and making a break for the jungle. The chase is tense and frenetic, with Mathias's men hot on her heels. The island's dense foliage provides cover, but it's also fraught with dangers: treacherous cliffs, venomous snakes, and unstable ground that threatens to give way beneath her. Lara's resourcefulness shines as she uses the environment to her advantage, setting traps and outmaneuvering her pursuers. At one point, she tumbles down a raging river, clinging desperately to a piece of debris as she's swept toward a towering waterfall. The moment is breathtaking, and Lara's sheer will to survive is on full display as she leaps from the edge, narrowly avoiding death. While exploring the island, Lara stumbles upon a hidden cave, and inside, she finds her father alive. Richard has been in hiding for years, sabotaging Trinity's efforts to find the tomb. Their reunion is emotional, but fraught with tension. Richard, convinced Lara is a hallucination, struggles to believe she's really there. Once the shock wears off, the two begin working together to stop Vogel and Trinity. Using Richard's notes and her own ingenuity, Lara deciphers the puzzles guarding Himiko's tomb. But their progress is short-lived. Vogel and his men track them down, forcing Lara to lead the way into the tomb. The journey inside is a perilous one, filled with ancient traps and riddles designed to protect the Queen's resting place. The air inside Himiko's tomb is stifling, heavy with the scent of ancient decay and danger. As Lara leads Mathias Vogel and his heavily armed team deeper into the tomb, the stakes couldn't be higher. Each step brings them closer to Himiko's resting place, and every decision feels like it could be their last. The walls around them are adorned with carvings and warnings, a chilling reminder of the Queen's alleged curse. The group encounters the first of many deadly traps, a narrow passage lined with pressure-sensitive tiles. One wrong step, and the entire corridor could collapse. Vogel commands Lara to navigate the treacherous path, and despite her fear, her resourcefulness kicks in. Carefully analyzing the patterns and using tools from her father's research, Lara makes her way through, disarming the trap for the others. But the tension escalates as one of Vogel's men steps incorrectly, triggering a partial collapse that forces them to run for safety. Dust fills the air as the group narrowly escapes being crushed. As they progress further, the tomb's defenses grow more lethal. A collapsing floor gives way to a bottomless pit, and intricate puzzles guard the way forward. Lara's intelligence and problem-solving skills come to the forefront as she deciphers ancient symbols, unlocking hidden mechanisms that grant access to Himiko's burial chamber. The entire sequence is a test of Lara's grit and determination, each success making her more confident in her abilities. Finally, they reach the heart of the tomb, Himiko's sarcophagus. The ancient queen lies sealed in an ornate stone coffin, her body perfectly preserved despite the centuries. The atmosphere is electric, part awe, part dread. Mathias Vogel, eager to complete his mission and earn his freedom from Trinity, orders his men to extract Himiko's remains. Lara protests, realizing the truth behind the legend. Himiko was no supernatural being but a carrier of a deadly plague. The so-called curse was, in fact, a biological weapon, a horrifying truth that makes Himiko's sacrifice all the more noble. Ignoring Lara's warnings, Vogel lifts Himiko's remains from the sarcophagus. As he does, one of his men accidentally comes into contact with the queen's body and succumbs almost immediately to the plague. His skin turns black, and his body convulses before collapsing lifelessly to the floor. Panic erupts as Vogel realizes the weapon's potency, but instead of retreating, he doubles down on his plan. He takes a sample of Himiko's remains and seals it in a protective case, determined to smuggle it off the island and deliver it to Trinity. Lara Croft, who had secretly followed the group into the tomb, makes a desperate plea to Lara to destroy the remains and prevent the plague from ever leaving Yamatai. He knows what must be done, even if it means sacrificing himself. The scene between father and daughter is heartbreaking, as Richard insists that she leave him behind. "This is my fight," he tells her, his voice firm but filled with sorrow. Lara refuses to abandon him, but Vogel's men close in, and time is running out. In a harrowing sequence, Richard infects himself with the plague to ensure Himiko's body cannot be used. He then detonates an explosive he had hidden, creating chaos within the tomb. His selfless act devastates Lara, but it also ignites a fierce determination within her. The tomb begins to collapse, forcing Lara to confront Vogel in a final, brutal showdown. The fight is intense, filled with desperate strikes and close calls. Vogel, armed and dangerous, underestimates Lara's resourcefulness. Using her surroundings to her advantage, she outmaneuvers him in the crumbling chamber, ultimately seizing his weapon and killing him in a visceral, hard-fought victory. With Vogel dead and the tomb collapsing around her, Lara races against time to escape. The crumbling passages and falling debris provide a nail-biting sequence as she dodges collapsing walls, leaps over chasms, and fights to reach the surface. The tomb, once a marvel of ancient engineering, becomes a death trap, forcing Lara to rely on every ounce of strength and courage she has left. As she emerges into the open air, Lara looks back at the destruction, her heart heavy with loss but resolute in her mission. The plague, Himiko, and the tomb have been buried once more, this time for good. But the cost was enormous. She has lost her father and witnessed horrors that will forever change her. Back in civilization, Lara embraces her role as the heir to the Croft estate. But her journey isn't over. While reviewing her father's documents, she uncovers a shocking revelation. Anna Miller, the trusted family partner, is secretly working for Trinity. The betrayal fuels Lara's determination to continue her father's fight against the organization. The final scene is a defining moment for Lara's transformation. Armed with her signature twin pistols, she steps into her role as the iconic Tomb Raider, ready to take on whatever challenges